Hello friends. The reason for my video today is briefly because I received an email from a loan officer that offers veteran loans, and I just find it interesting that they're like, we're trying to come up with a solution for buyer agents and them getting paid, and they came up with something for the compensation. But I just wanted to read this thing about the background of the issue, and it says, due to the recent National Association of Realtors settlement agreement, listing brokers on the MLS can no longer make blanket compensation offers to buyers' agents. Buyers will now need to agree upfront on the fees they will pay their agents. So this is where I find it's tricky, is that we always had buyer agent agreements. Now, if it was explained properly, that's not our fault if it wasn't. The buyer is always agreeing to pay for your services as a buyer agent. And the listing broker was always the one getting compensated. And if they put it in the MLS, they were saying, hey, if you bring a buyer, we're going to share our portion of our commission with you for bringing that buyer. We're going to share our commission. So technically, although the seller was paying, they're paying the listing brokerage, and that brokerage had made an agreement to split their commission. However, whether it be 10%, 30%, 50%, or even 70% of their commissions to the buyer's agent brokerage firm. So the wording got messed up along the way, and it's still getting messed up as even lenders are trying to say, hey, this could be tricky because they're no longer allowed to. What they're not allowed to do is put what that fee is going to be that they're compensating you in the MLS, because people felt like it was unfair to display what that commission was going to be, and that certain houses weren't going to be shown because of it. Well, that kind of makes sense, because if a buyer is signing a form saying that they're going to pay you 2.5%, 3%, 4%, 5%, whatever it is, and let's just pick 4%, that the buyer is going to pay you 4%, we would know right offhand how much was being offered as commission in the MLS. Now we're not going to know that, so we have to call the listing brokerage first so that the buyer will know what they're on the hook for. That's really the only change. Everybody's trying to get savvy with this. It's not really that complicated. In North Carolina, we were one of 12 states that was already doing buyer agency agreements. So even though the buyer felt like they weren't paying for the service, is because most of the time the fee was collected from the proceeds of the sale, because that listing firm compensated enough money to cover the buyer agent's fee. So the buyer never saw it. So a lot of listing agents are getting savvy with the way they're going to list property, and sellers think they don't have to pay the buyer agent. They never paid the buyer agent to begin with. Sellers, you never wrote a check to the buyer agent. Just keeping that in mind. It was always the broker who listed the property that negotiated that rate, and they also negotiated the rate they were going to pay the buyer's broker's firm for bringing a buyer. That's how it works. So the buyer agent isn't going to work for free, and there's a lot of work that they have to do. Anyways, it's all about wording and understanding. So I pray that people go forward and understand how this is. It's not a negative that the buyers are going to be signing this form. It's always been something we've been doing for 10 years. I mean, I've been a realtor for 10 years. We've been doing this, and it's not hurt our business. So I think it's just a matter of knowing and educating the buyer so they can understand what they may be paying, if anything. Okay, thanks. Y'all have a great